If you can't get your hands on Citizen Vigilante or just want to know what's going on, here's a retelling of the movie with some remarks along the way. Sure thing, spoilers ahead. It starts with a mother buying groceries with her son in a local small shop. Calm, upbeat music plays in the background. Mother and son radiate a loving vibe. They have a normal, polite conversation with the cashier at checkout. After finishing their shopping, they leave the store. Even though we see some low-level graffiti, the area still looks relatively clean, not a ghetto neighborhood. Then, out of nowhere, a man appears with a long kitchen knife and stabs the woman in the neck. A news report from what seems to be an official outlet called World News covers the incident, revealing that the attacker is an undocumented migrant. After the intro credits, we cut to a second news report covering our main hero, who has already made a name for himself. They say he delivers a brand of justice that the authorities have failed to provide, targeting both criminals and those in power. It then switches to a street survey, with people saying things like, "We pay taxes to help Africa, and in return, we get robbed. And as a woman, you can't go out after 9 PM anymore because it's too risky." Others praise him, saying they love him, want to marry him, and call him a knight who helps the helpless. During this segment, we get our first glimpse of the antagonist, who watches this service on his phone while looking like he's having a hard time taking a dump. The report adds that last week, the leader of a prominent Middle Eastern crime syndicate and his associate were found dead in a dumpster, where they belong.
Time to take out the trash.
We are shown several Instagram reels praising the vigilante. We then get an edit that mixes our guy's recorded video messages, his training and combat preparation montage, and a scene of him taking care of some racketeers. In his video messages, he says he does it for us. He can't watch us exist in a state of paralysis. He adds we're all being used as playthings, soldiers who think their sacrifice is for some greater good. Clinton, Biden, Trump, you never see them on the front lines because they have you. They've tricked you into thinking you're dying for your country, but the country does jack shit for you. You walk down the street, you get robbed, stabbed, killed. What does your country do? Nada. And what do you do? Nada. The universe demands balance. If you do nothing, I have to do something. Another Instagram reel appears, featuring a man saying we need people like Citizen Vigilante in Canada. We get a very brief news report with a few shots of the antagonist, who's finally introduced. His name is Chief Henry, and he's an Interpol regional, chief. In his statement, he says he is here to support law enforcement and that the investigation is leading to the possibility of a terrorist cell operating against democracy. We are then shown the bus scene. A group of teenagers boards without buying tickets. The driver refuses to continue the route, so our guy pays for them and gives them a lecture about how prices will rise if a percentage of people don't pay. One of the grateful teens tries to pull a knife, but our guy pulls a gun on him, saying it's the luckiest moment of their lives. The teens eventually get off the bus after a few stops, flipping him the middle finger.
Fucking teenagers.
Vigilante arrives at the hospital. He visits Elza, who was force-fed grapes and, by the looks of it, severely beaten. He asks her what she wants. After she says she wants them to rot in prison for the rest of their lives, he replies that they might, but adds that the trial could take years. She would have to tell her story all over again, in a room full of people who will call her a liar. He also adds that there's no guarantee that they won't do it to someone else during that time, and mentions that the trial will be expensive. He finishes his speech with the question, "Is that the justice you want?" When she says no, he asks, "Do you want justice?" To which she says yes. He holds her hand for a few seconds, then leaves. While leaving the hospital, he watches a few Instagram reels praising him and saying they need someone like him in their country. We get a scene that resembles a police interrogation, where they discuss fingerprints obtained from a bar he regularly visits. We learn that he has family assets here, but he is an American citizen. The bar is located in a unit he owns. This is followed by a scene of him inspecting the exterior of the building, photographing damages and taking taking notes. It cuts to Chief Henry receiving a radio transmission. We've got a lock on him, suggesting we've tracked our guy. This is followed by an unnecessarily long scene of a SWAT team traveling to the hero's location, alongside a montage of him preparing for war.
War never changes.
We get another video message from the protagonist explaining why Interpol would rather fight the men stopping crime than the crime itself. He argues that they are protecting imposed morals, religion and politics, which he describes as tools of oppression. He adds that history can be changed and that the state, courts and police haven't failed people because they were never meant to deliver justice in the first place. Their only function is control. This is followed by another montage of a SWAT team driving to the location. At this point, they're probably going about 20 kilometers per hour if it takes them this long to arrive. Our guy goes to the brothel and, although it's not important to the plot, it's visually pleasant. He picks a specialist and they get to business, briefly turning the movie into an erotic scene. During their session, he notices mold on the ceiling. He asks if she ventilates the room after showering, to which she says no. He then proceeds to continue the session with even more enthusiasm. Chief Henry is at the bar. The waitress recognizes him and tells him that nobody actually wants him to catch Citizen Vigilante. He agrees she might be right, but says the law exists for a reason and that people can't be allowed to run around carrying out lynchings or society will collapse. There are two pushy and unlikable white guys with two women they are trying to impress. While the girls are away, the two men spike their drinks, which is noticed by Vigilante. He distracts them by claiming someone is harassing their girls in the bathroom and swaps the glasses so the two assholes end up drinking their own spiked drinks. The four return, drink up and the two guys pass out. Vigilante then tells the women what happened. Chief Henry has observed the entire situation. After Vigilante leaves, he carefully takes a glass Vigilante used, handling it with a cloth to avoid contaminating fingerprints. The scene gets interrupted by another Vigilante interrogation. He explains the fingerprints, saying it's possible he simply moved the glass from a seat he wanted to take, and that he's a regular at that bar. Remember that SWAT driving montage that overstayed its welcome? Now we get a SWAT walking montage. They finally reach Vigilante's residence and take their time entering the building. We get another news report, and the movie really tries hard to remind us that we're watching a movie, as they bring up migration issues, saying if the risks associated with migration outweigh the benefits, and if migrants are contributing more to societal costs than economic gains, then it may be time to... I mean, what official media outlet in real life would say that? The SWAT team finally gets inside the house and asks Vigilante to surrender. In return, he offers them the same. He has set up bulletproof metal plates with two holes, through which his AK barrels stick out. However, the SWAT team doesn't even attempt to spread out, flank him along the walls or throw a grenade inside. Instead, they act like mindless NPCs and just shoot at the metal plates. Of course, he easily takes them out. After eliminating the first group, a second wave enters, and they prove to be just as tactically gifted by running straight into gunfire in a small room. You could read it as a cheap action scene, but considering Uwe Boll's capability to film solid action, I assume it's intentional, a kind of metaphor for the incompetence of government services. Vigilante goes to his office to speak with the manager running his business. He asks how many tenants are behind on rent, which turns out to be 10%. He wants them evicted and learns that the current system works like this. After 3 months of unpaid rent, a final notice is issued with a 1-month deadline. If tenants still don't pay, a court order allows eviction within a total of 7 months. So essentially it's basically 7 months of free rent. They manage 3,500 units in the city, generating about 50,040,000 annually. 10% of that equals roughly 5 million. He tells his manager over Owen to pressure tenants after 4 weeks of non-payment. If that doesn't work, he instructs him to provide their addresses so his people can handle it. Then we get a really forced exposition dump, revealing that Vigilante's mother died when he was young. His father sent him to boarding school and they only saw each other twice a year. We also learn that his real name is Michael Sanders and that he served in the military. Before leaving, Owen mentions that the government has started investigating the ownership structure and discovered that he is technically in violation of regulations. Since he didn't provide ownership details to the tax authorities, they are now considering seizing empty units for migrant housing. Owen is fairly certain the government would gladly grant him citizenship without asking too many questions, but Vigilante replies that he is an American on an extended vacation. Before leaving, he looks at the office workers and tells Owen it smells like nursing home here and suggests they get some fresh blood. This could be interpreted as a jab at politicians who stay in power for too long. Our guy goes to a bar early, takes a drink, and we get another interrogation style scene where he talks about his father. He explains that he was young when his mother passed away and that the emotional weight of that loss combined with trying to grow the company wasn't compatible with raising a child. Vigilante says he has come to terms with it, and now that he runs the company himself, he can understand it better. We cut to a short scene of Chief Henry entering a room filled with dead and wounded SWAT members. He is accompanied by additional officers and promises that he will bring Vigilante down. Our guy visits another victim of forceful grape feeding. Her father opens the door, and while they talk, the girl comes downstairs. Vigilante asks if they are satisfied with the results of the court. The father loses his shit, but the daughter says there was no justice. After that, Vigilante leaves. Chief Henry visits Elza, the survivor of a group grape feeding incident. He says he's sorry for what happened to her and that they will spare no resources to bring the perpetrators to justice. Elza originally believed Vigilante was law enforcement and tells this to Chief Henry. He becomes interested in what he looked like, but Elza has already realized Vigilante is just a concerned citizen and gives Henry false information, describing him as a short, bearded, dark-haired Middle Eastern man. We cut back to the 3 teenagers from the bus scene. They are in a park bullying a nerd, robbing him and beating him up. Fortunately, Vigilante happens to be nearby. He electrocutes the male attackers while their female accomplice escapes. He then proceeds to break their fucking fingers. The next scene is a bit strange. Chief Henry was present during the initial assault, but now he's shown as if he just arrived there. The same applies to the mustached SWAT leader. This could either be a subtle real-life parallel, showing that soldiers fight on the front lines while those in charge lag behind, or simply a continuity issue. Either way, he discovers that the house is registered to a strawman, woman, so it can be traced back to Vigilante. The narrative continues jumping between storylines, as we see Vigilante kidnapping a judge while cosplaying a cop. During the drive, he explains why the judge was targeted, implying that he has repeatedly let drug dealers walk free. He references a case involving a 14-year-old girl who was recently force-fed grapes by 6 generous migrant boys. The judge described them as simply having adjustment issues and difficulty fitting into society. We cut back to the super competent SWAT team as they attempt to breach the metal cover Vigilante used as protection. There's a Booby Trap manhole, which explodes when they open it. Chief Henry appears to be the only survivor. It cuts to Vigilante's friendly drive with the judge, where he says that people are sheep, that even if you push them to the limit, they will obey the law. He goes full psycho and veers into the opposite lane, forcing another driver off the road and into a field, which causes the car to roll over and explode. Vigilante remarks that instead of crossing the line, they fell into a ditch and likely didn't survive. life. He then takes the judge to a remote location, pours vodka over him, and proceeds to, let's say, carry out some excessive bloodletting, making it look like the judge chose to exit the server on his own terms. In this final part of the movie, Vigilante pays a friendly visit to a boy who forcefully fed grapes to a 14-year-old girl. He holds his family at gunpoint and tells them to sit the fuck down. The little asshole, whose name is Yusuf, tries to run for it and gets shot in the leg. Of course, he tries to justify himself, saying that she wanted it and that they're all getting mental health support. Such a brave victim he is. Vigilante then points a gun at Yusuf's sister, referencing a post on her social media, saying that the girl deserved it. She then does her best to justify her words by saying that they dress wrong and just make boys horny with their miniskirts. The father says that he teaches them the values of the Quran. Vigilante asks that if those are their values, why did they come here in the first place? Yusuf's father replies that there is war in their country. Vigilante responds that it is the bad ones who come, bringing archaic values and prioritizing religion over the law. Vigilante tells Yusuf to call his friends and tell them to come over. Of course, Yusuf plays tough. I mean, he's capable of overpowering a girl with 7 of his friends, so the sky's the limit for this guy. But Vigilante doesn't fuck around and points a gun at his mom, starting a countdown from 5. The father loses his cool and makes Yusuf make the call. Some time passes and then we hear the doorbell. Vigilante orders Yusuf's sister to open the door, adding, "No funny business or I shoot mom." 2 assholes walk in and here's the moment we've all been waiting for. Vigilante starts blasting them. All of them. Lil cunts, adult cunts, female cunts. All cunts are equal in the face of justice. Vigilante then takes his phone and casually waits for the rest of the group, completely unfazed by the dead bodies in the room. 2 more assholes arrive, one of them a bald white guy, so you can't pin this on racism or Islamophobia. He escorts them into the room and provides some medical-led therapy. Then another 2 come and let themselves in, only to receive the same treatment as the others. It cuts to the hospital. Chief Henry doesn't look too good after surviving the explosion. Vigilante calls him, saying he has a message for the government. The people won't accept the takeover. Chief Henry repeats the usual line, that he pledged to protect and serve, and that Vigilante has crossed the line too many times. Vigilante replies that the people never voted for this, and calls it a takeover by Islamist extremists and a blindsided woke left, which he claims will result in the destruction of democracy. He adds there is only one option, either you end this or we the people do. We are shown another news report about 3 judges found dead, initially ruled as self-inflicted, though authorities are now investigating it as potential murder due to the suspicious timing. Chief Henry tells his assistant he needs to speak to the Prime Minister. He adds that if she refuses, the assistant should gather every member of the press and bring them to him. We see a 14-year-old girl with her father, watching a news report about the grape-giving gang being taken down. They also present statistics about migrants contributing to violent crime and assaults. The report raises questions about the necessity of Vigilante and highlights flaws in the system. We see another video message from Vigilante, where he says he is here to help people take back control and show them they are no longer victims. He adds that he does it for them until they learn to do it for themselves. The movie ends with sad music and a final dedication. This film is dedicated to the thousands of grape giveaway and murder victims in Europe who were betrayed by our legal system.